Welcome to Culture on Tap. We are a podcast that is about bridging the cultural gap one conversation at a time. Have myself, Xavier Bright, Dale Young, and Range Armentar. And again, we have our special guest, Eric Hudson. We're going to be talking about adoption today. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share on anywhere you listen to or watch podcasts. And make sure you hit the notification bell so that you can get the notifications whenever new content comes out. And as usual, we have a get to know you with Range, or fun facts with Range. Sorry, not get to know you. Fun facts with Range. So go ahead, Dale.
I forgot, but I got one. So fun fact with Range. I'll ask you, Xavier and Eric, how many ways you think he can before he answers. How many different ways do you believe that Range thinks it's okay to eat turkey? I know that sounds like such a.
I'm going to say one.
This is a very specific fun fact. So I would agree with Eric, but I think there's going to be some sort of off the wall type of response. So let's just go 3.
What ways do you eat turkey, Range?
I actually don't know if I know the answer to this.
Well, we had the conversation at Thanksgiving. You eat it.
But there's only one way
Thanksgiving.
at Thanksgiving.
Which is not really a way. And then you can have
One occasion.
And then you have Thanksgiving sandwiches.
Sandwiches after.
But you cannot have turkey as your main course at any other time of the year besides holiday.
Why would you?
Why wouldn't you?
I'm going to be honest with you,
Because
Range.
it's turkey. I mean, what other time do you eat turkey other than Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving?
I ate turkey for lunch yesterday. A turkey sandwich.
Did you run out of ham?
Range. Is it are you talking about like the process of getting a turkey, cooking it, and
Yeah, for sure.
right? Because and I will have a turkey sandwich. Like if it's an option of one of the meats that I can get at the deli or whatever, if my wife buys turkey in the package, I will eat it. But I'm with you as far as when it comes to, and my wife and I disagree on this because she could have turkey at least once a month, if not more. She could have the full turkey stuffing. Heaven forbid we ever go to a place where they're making
No, I couldn't do that.
a Thanksgiving sandwich, because there are places.
Yeah,
we found a place close to our home in Colorado that now has this turkey. It's basically a Thanksgiving sandwich with the dressing and all the fixings on it into a sandwich. But I'm with you, Range. I actually don't want turkey, actual cooked, baked turkey, but once a year Thanksgiving.
So, first of all, Range isn't eating a baked turkey ever.
No, we don't use our oven for turkeys. We put a pie in the oven.
I don't even want to. What do you do with your turkeys, Range?
Oh, they're fried.
That's the only way he can eat them.
We had both this past year. We had a fried and a oven baked.
But if you're going to get deli meat, you're not getting turkey.
I am not getting turkey from the deli. No.
Yeah.
I'll get
So
ham or beef.
Yeah, yeah, he said beef.
Hamburger.
If I'm having a sandwich, I would prefer it to be turkey over ham, personally.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's healthier.
Okay, why are you saying it like I'm weird? Like I think everybody
Because
else.
I thought we were tight. But
Just so we're clear, I'm gonna.
apparently I just wrote off all of my friends.
I'm gonna bank on that everyone in here would rather have a turkey sandwich than a ham sandwich.
Let me ask you,
Except for me.
Besides you, yeah.
Yeah.
what's in a club sandwich? Is that turkey?
Yeah.
Well, then you're not in the club.
Not in the club.
So
Well, I guess that makes me and Jessica both.
yeah, because Jessica likes club sandwiches except for that extra piece of bread, which makes it a club. I said it's just a sandwich if you don't have that piece of bread.
Does she put her chips anywhere other than in the center?
Yeah, she goes. I really like this club sandwich. It just needs less bread. I'm like,
So how'd you feel about the frilly toothpicks?
well, who knows with Jessica.
Don't tell me.
But for me, so I do agree with you. The thought of having a full Thanksgiving meal, like I don't even love having it at Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like
Yeah, we don't do that.
and here's the crazy part for me. Even at Thanksgiving, I make mine into a sandwich the first shot. Like I don't eat.
You don't separate them and
I make a sandwich that from the like when he cooks like because we usually do Thanksgiving either at your house or his house or together. The second it's fresh and cooked, I am already making a sandwich with cranberry sauce and mayonnaise and cheese and like I make a sandwich from the jump because I don't actually like.
They should all be mixed together anyway,
Right,
because they're
right.
going to end up mixed together.
Yeah, when I had that sandwich at Earl Sandwiches, I was sold
Yeah.
on it. Like this is the only way you should eat it.
What are you gonna do this year? We're gonna be at.
D-Town.
I'll get it at Christmas. But I've been fighting for this for years. That Michelle's like Meredith. She wants a traditional Thanksgiving, which I don't understand why we decided this is traditional, but we need the dressing and all that at Thanksgiving and at Christmas. To me, they're so close together.
Well, that's what the Pilgrims did.
Well,
The
maybe
first
so.
Thanksgiving meal.
And so, like for me, I'm like, when we eat it at Thanksgiving, because we eat it for like 3 days, it's too close to do it again at Christmas. For me, I would much
Yeah,
rather.
by the time we're done eating leftovers, it's time to cook it all again.
Yeah. Which is really random because we are traditionalists. My wife is for Thanksgiving and Christmas, but Christmas Eve we have to eat Chinese food.
Oh, you know, she got that from
Yeah, from the Christmas story.
the Christmas Story.
Yeah, so figure that out. But
Range has never seen the Christmas Story.
I have not, but
my
I
goodness.
do. But I do eat the Chinese food for Christmas Eve.
yes, so
Because you're following somebody else's tradition.
Exactly.
well, it's really good Chinese. We splurged for that. But when we went to Earl Sandwiches and I got the sandwich,
Oh, that-
I've never ate turkey straight again.
But you know what's so funny is that I'm not a big Thanksgiving. I'm not a big Thanksgiving Day food person anyway. But that sandwich at Earl Sandwiches, and this is not brought to you by Earl Sandwich, I wish.
Yeah.
But it's so good.
Yes, it
all
is.
that mixed together, they made it right. It's perfect.
Maybe we can tag Earl.
Yeah, maybe he'll
see.
tell us. Maybe he'll give us one because we're gonna be at
We will
Disney,
be there.
Earl. Like if you wanna drop one off by the park.
I think when we went to Disneyland, I had one of those, the moist makers, and I had two of the pizza sandwiches.
You ate a lot.
I had two
Yeah,
of them, and I finished Zabi's sandwich too. And that was the first day we were there. Like it was, and I loved every minute of it. I'll do it again.
Well, they are the Earl of Sandwich. I mean, they just make them right. The bread's so good too.
Well, and here's another thing. We're way off topic now, but Thanksgiving makes me nervous too because someone always brings in a casserole that I'm not sure what's going down
Yeah.
with it. See, I don't like green bean casserole.
Oh, yeah.
Like I don't want when you start putting them dishes out there and I can't tell you what's in it. I'm like, see, you're messing me up right now. Like I'm getting a little nervous, and you
not
don't
much
even
on
know what people are
casserole.
going to put in their dressing.
Yeah, and you know a lot of work went into it because it's in the glass container.
Yeah,
And there's some usually brown on the top, but
Yeah.
same time it's kind of like, ooh, what is this?
yeah. You like all that?
No, I'm not a fan of casseroles.
It's like
Never.
that seven layer casserole dip that what's her name made on Friends.
Yeah.
Rachel.
Yeah, I don't want a casserole. Like they make me nervous. Because I feel like I don't know. Like I just don't. I don't.
Because
like it.
typically it's whatever was left in the refrigerator. We're just gonna
Right,
put it all together and
right,
heat it up.
right.
Exactly.
Right.
7 layer of
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So good fun fact with Range.
Yeah.
He believes the only way to eat turkey. But you like so let me correct me if I'm wrong. You're gonna eat it regular on Thanksgiving. You'll make a turkey sandwich, but it's got to be
sandwich. But
real
it's
chunks of turkey.
Yeah, it's real turkey.
But you ain't eating turkey deli meat.
deli meat. I mean, I'll eat it if that's all. If we, like I said, like I told X, if he ran out of ham, but to go buy turkey from the deli,
No, not when there's other
no,
options.
there's other. They've got plenty of roast beef. They've got plenty of ham.
There you go.
No need for turkey.
There we go. So fun fact. We're Range and the turkey. So
On to adoption.
now we're gonna change to adoption and our heart towards adoption. So today, it's a little. We're gonna talk about this. We've been talking about having this conversation. We wanted to wait till Eric came in. Myself, Eric, and Range have all adopted, and of course, Xavier, we want you to be able to feel free to speak in because you've been a part of all of these adoptions and still are. Just disclaimer. So we'll start with Eric since he went first. Kind of explain short synopsis of y'all's adoption journey, and then I'll go, and then Range can go.
And actually, let me before we start. This was probably a mistake having you and I both. I already feel the emotion coming on because it's been such an emotional journey. Yeah, what were we thinking? we have Sophia, who will be 11, and you believe that she'll be 11 years old in October. Sophia has autism, and we know that the spectrum is very, very vast. Way up here, Sophia is way down here. Sophia is probably on at least 1.5 to 2-year-old level, it's been a very, very long journey. Sophia also suffers from epilepsy. She has a very, very rare genetic disorder also, and I wish I could remember it off the top of my head, but I didn't write it down. But it's some kind of hemiplegic. Basically, it causes her brain to just stop, and it slows down.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like rare, like when Lou Gehrig's was coming out, like there's that few people. Like
it's like, very, very, very
like
rare.
It hasn't like been named
right
something yet.
It's actually hemiplegic, hemiconvulsive epilepsy disorder.
Yeah,
Lots of big words.
I'm not going to say any
but
of
basically,
that.
but basically, it's it's just another form of epilepsy. But Sophia, Sophia was a product, and it's a long story, so I'm going to really kind of summarize this. But when I met Sophia's biological mother when I was working as a police officer. Some years later, I run into her mom again. Had run across her several times throughout my career. Had worked a couple cases for her. And one day when I was doing some undercover work, Sophia's mom called me and said, because Meredith and I had always talked about adoption. We always had this desire to, we love our boys, but we always felt that God was calling us to bring somebody else into our home. And part of that is because the blessings that God had given us in our life, we thought, man, we could really feel like we could give a child who doesn't have a home and give them opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have. And I'll be honest with you, when I look back now, we didn't think it all the way through. And that is so true because it seems so easy to just take a child from a tough situation and just bring them into your home. That's probably just about the gist of what we thought about. So we went through all these classes, foster to adopt and stuff like this. But one day when I was doing some work, I received a phone call from Sophia's biological mother, and she basically said, would you and your wife ever would you ever consider adopting my child? I can't do this anymore. And she said, you're the only person I've ever been able to trust, and I just can't do this. And so I told her, I said, hey, she sent me pictures, that was the clincher, because you guys know what Sophia looks like, and beautiful blonde-headed little blue-eyed baby. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how could anybody say no to this? And she sent me pictures. I sent it to Meredith, and Meredith, it's probably one of the fastest text messages I ever got back. She said yes. And I told her, hey, I'm going on a mission trip. I'm leaving for Guatemala in the morning.
Which was the first time you had been on a mission trip.
Yeah, this is my first. So
there was a lot going on.
There was a lot going on that I didn't know was coming. God was stirring the pot, as he does when he wants to waken you up to something. And so we went on this mission trip, and when we came back, Sophia became a part of our lives and has been ever since then. And so that's and so we had her. She was young, and I know I'm gonna get this wrong, Meredith. I think she was 8 months old, I believe, when we got her, and and so ever since then she's been part of our lives. And it was shortly after that, within a couple months of her coming into our lives, and we started realizing there were some medical. And the first one we came across was epilepsy, and we didn't realize about the autism until we came back, but we didn't change anything.
Yeah, and me and you will talk more about, because we both have special needs daughters next week, so we don't want to spend a ton of time on that part. So I'm trying to remember how long y'all had adopted. Well, let's see, Sophia's 11, so Ryan's 7, so roughly 3 to 4 years.
And it's funny because I actually remember you guys talking about adoption long before we ever talked about bringing Sophia in.
Yeah.
It was just an opportunity had come across our paths first.
Yeah, so our journey is very different in some ways. I can remember dating Michelle and her telling me when we dated that if I was not willing to adopt one day, that she didn't think that we could get married, which really
Wow.
freaked me out. Because I'm like,
So she had it on her heart early.
absolutely. I'm trying to figure out if we are like gonna just be together, and you talking about adopting kids. I don't even know if I want kids. And so, of course, naturally at the time you're young, and I'm like, yeah, like I'm game. Like, and so we started down the road. Whole time I feel like Michelle was the gas pedal, I was the brake. Very nervous. First 2 times we attempted, it was both in El Salvador. We had a friend that was a missionary there. We got 2 different phone calls of ladies that wanted to adopt or wanted to give up their children. Both cases, which this is an amazing thing. It wasn't amazing for our emotions, but it's amazing for the kingdom. Both cases, the missionary came to meet with her. They ended up giving their life to Christ and keeping their children, which is amazing. And then we attempted a 3rd time that the door shut, and we started feeling like maybe just because we want this, maybe this is not what God wants for us. Like maybe, and so we just started praying like, God, if this is not your will, we're okay. Like we're just trying to be obedient. And so we went to Guatemala. Seems like Guatemala seems to be the theme. With y'all were getting ready to move to Colorado, so we decided to take a trip to Guatemala for fun. It wasn't a missions trip; it was just a fun trip. And your I was doing good. Your wife,
But it's real. I mean,
Yeah.
it's real because
because we'd come to a place of peace going, Lord, we just want to love the orphan.
yeah,
And we had almost like convinced ourselves our job is just to love. Because at this point, y'all had realized the special needs aspect of Sophia was way more than any of us anticipated. So we're like, our job is just to love y'all. And so,
which y'all did extremely well, I might say, because it was, whew, that's one of those things that
even
you don't
though
have
she's
to walk
rough now,
through.
it's in the beginning.
Yeah,
It was like just y'all trying to figure out everything.
Yeah.
And so, your wife bought my wife, Papoose.
Papoose.
It was a homemade to carry a baby, and Maris said to her, like, I just believe that y'all are going to adopt soon. Please don't take this as like anything. Like, just this is just what God laid on my heart. So, we literally got back on the plane, landed in Houston, and Michelle had a voicemail of a little girl in the hospital. She was born at 23 weeks. She is the 7th youngest child born alive in the state of Texas. And she was 1 pound, 7 ounces. By the time we got to see her the first time, she was 3 pounds. They told us she was going to have all these medical issues. When we brought her home, I think she was like 4, maybe 5. Michelle would remember. She's telling me I'm probably wrong.
but going back to that, yeah, I still, and go back to
Yeah.
when y'all were in the hospital, I still remember how much, especially Michelle,
Yeah.
how much time, because you were working,
Yeah.
and I
Oh,
still
yeah.
remember how much time Michelle had to spend in the hospital, and she was mama immediatee. I mean,
Absolutely.
She was, because I remember that she would lay her on her chest.
Yep, she would. So they would call it kangarooing. She'd wear button-up shirts, and she would open her shirt and lay her in it, and like close the shirt and have her on her skin. But the hospital was down on Beach Nut, which is almost an hour
Yeah,
from my house, and she was going twice a day. In fact, one day, Range and Jess were going with them.
Yeah.
And Range had to drive her because she fell asleep behind the wheel. He was like, "You get in the passenger
you had
seat,
to drive Michelle.
Michelle.
because she was
Yeah.
like literally."
Pumping gas, actually.
He was pumping gas for her. She was in the
fell
driver's
asleep.
seat, and she was asleep. And he said, "Why don't you go get in the passenger seat,
Yeah.
and I'll drive."
Just from being exhausted from all
Yeah,
the,
just wore out. Because in the beginning, no one else could go in there, so it
Yeah.
wasn't like people could relieve us. And so we were in the hospital for right at a month. We actually came home on our anniversary, oxygen, the whole 9 yards, which was scary in itself. There's a whole lot of sensors going off and beeps and like
buzzers
I remember
and
Xavier and
alarms.
Range were like, I don't know if I can hang out. Like there's too much going on. But we've had her now for 7 years. She's not on oxygen. She is autistic. We have our daughter's autistic as well. I would say if she's a little higher functioning than Sophia,
yeah. I would agree.
but she is built like the middle linebacker for any NFL team.
I would agree.
She's very yeah, she's very aggressive
And loving.
and loving, like, which you get both extremes. Like if she wants to hug you, it's gonna be all of a hug.
Like she just got an award at school this week.
Yeah.
And part of it is because she's the friendliest kid, friendliest girl in her class, and we all recognize that. She's probably because she's gonna force you into. You're gonna be her friend.
Yeah, you're gonna be her
You have
friend.
no choice.
Yeah. So it's been 7 years. I think that a lot of the autism, the special needs part, God used y'all to help us just be prepared for like what. And I think it's helped both of us because we talk to y'all just about every Saturday and go,
Yeah.
how's the girls doing? And we'll say, they slammed their face, or they kicked a hole in the wall, or they broke another window, or good, not good, poop's flying, whatever.
Yeah.
Gotta get on the phone. She just threw poop on me, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be that day. It's kind of been
We're going to the hospital. We don't know how she broke her foot, but we don't know how she did it.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
she can't talk.
Yeah, she can't talk, and then we went with Ryan when she snapped her arm. She kept trying to get her arms like dangling, and she's like, "I don't think it's broken." I'm like, "Babe, arms don't do S's." Like I'm like, we got to go. So so that was kind of our thing, and then you're up, Range, which we have. I would say we have children that are 3 and 1, and Range decided to tie us and get just 3.
Yeah. He's like, let's do a 3 for sale.
Yeah. But it's crazy how each level has prepared the next person for something in the path
Yeah.
that was coming. You guys dealing with Sophia and all of the stuff that she had going on helped prepare the Youngs for Ryan. And Ryan being premature and having the oxygen and the alarms and the sirens and all that type stuff helped prepare us for Jet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the crazy part is I'm thinking, and I'm talking to my wife. I was like, what's wrong with our friends? How do they not learn from okay? And I have to say this with all joking matter because I know there may be people that are watching this and trying to figure out, is this the right path for us?
Yeah.
But it's something I truly believe is completely done on prayer, and I think it's something that is God's going to speak to each one of you or each one of us individually. He's going to lay it on our heart, and here's the crazy thing is that He's and I think we tend to leave God out of the picture of so many aspects of our life, but especially when it came to this because He continues to make a way.
Yeah.
Right. Whenever things are difficult, the financial parts of it, for me personally, it is the patience.
Yeah.
It is the fact that with the direction that I thought my life was going to be. And here's the crazy part is because when Meredith and I were in Guatemala, when all these changes were getting ready to happen, and we were talking about bringing Sophie on, we actually had no idea. We were just years away from talking about retirement. We were actually, I remember walking down the cobblestone road, and we're talking about retirement. We're talking about, here pretty soon we're gonna be able to we can just fly to, let's say we just want to fly to New York for the weekend, have a long weekend. We're getting closer to that. And little did I know that when we took Sophia on, number one, she's gonna be with us for the rest of her life. But it's still amazing. And God quickly pointed out that, you know what, hey, it's my plan. It's my plan. And thank you so much for listening to me and follow my man because if you continue to listen, I'm going to continue to provide what Sophia needs.
Absolutely. So finish.
So,
you got 3.
Yeah, so we've got 3, and it's different, but all similar. We tried to. We don't have any biological kids, and so we tried having kids for several years, and then in the midst of trying in that time period is kind of whenever we all became friends and started hanging out, and seeing the heart for adoption and learning what that was and things like that. And then one day we just decided that, we're not going to go the medical route. We're not going to, do all this stuff to
Not judging anybody
To
who did, but
force-
you're
no.
not going to pay all that money.
pay all that money to force something that might not necessarily be God's plan.
Right.
And so we started looking into adoption and things like that. And like Eric said, we took all the classes, we did all the trainings, and there it's a crazy emotional roller coaster because you do all those things and you're ready, and then you're just waiting. You're waiting on a phone call.
Yeah.
And then I can remember while we were waiting on a phone call, y'all, I'm pointing at Dale, the Youngs actually got a phone call for a little boy, I believe.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was. And not anything towards y'all, but it kind of broke our hearts because
Yeah.
we were sitting there like, hey,
You're like, why not
we're
us?
we're gung ho, like
Because
we're
we went
ready
to the same agencies. It was like, why are you calling them
Why-
for
exactly.
the second kid and not calling us
Exactly.
for a first kid?
for a first kid.
Which
right.
What you didn't realize is we weren't going to get to keep him.
Exactly. And and that's just God's way of saying, hey, just trust in me. I got this. When it happens, be ready to hang on because
'Cause-
it's going to be a wild ride.
Correct.
It's
me
almost
if
like
I'm-
he was
did I-
saying, lean not on your own understanding range.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we also get the call for Kylie before y'all got Drake, or was Drake already on the?
I think we already had Drake.
Okay, I couldn't remember because it wasn't short. It was shortly after Jesus.
Whenever
We
yeah,
got Kylie too. I thought we got both before.
I'm not sure. No.
I'm pretty sure
but-
we did both before y'all got Drake.
And it might have been.
I think that's right.
I'm
Because
sure
I
Jessica
remember
will
going
correct me.
through.
Because I remember we felt horrible both times.
Yes, and
like we
okay.
wanted to be
That
excited.
makes sense.
We wanted
Yeah.
to be excited, but at the same time, it's like we knew what y'all wanted. And
Right.
It's like,
And I remember Meredith and I at home or being up in Colorado were like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
What's going on?
Because we knew the passion that
Yeah.
you had that for adoption, and you're
For
ready.
sure.
You're on deck,
yeah.
and you're like, why am I not getting called into the
Exactly.
game? Why am I not getting called into
Yeah.
the game? And we're ready to give this kid
We're
a loving
ready.
home, and yet you keep calling these people that already have.
They already
our,
have.
our friends
yeah,
already have 3 kids
Yeah.
plus one, and
Plus
you
one,
keep-
yeah.
it's like
for sure.
Well, and I
2
think
kids plus one. Sorry.
yeah, and I think that for us, looking back at it now, hindsight's 2020.
For sure.
Jesus or Jesus was not. He went back to his mom, and
Yeah.
then with Kylie, it came down. Even though we had custody of him, it came down to us another family, and the courts picked the other family.
Yeah.
Which I believe, God knows that y'all are not that we were like ready for this, but I think He knew y'all couldn't do it.
We wouldn't have been able to handle it.
Yeah.
Right.
For
And-
sure. That would, in hindsight, when you look at that now, it's like,
Oh,
like
absolutely.
he's protecting your hearts because
Yeah.
that wasn't their
Oh,
forever
rest
home.
assured, I couldn't have done it the first time. Like,
Right.
No.
like,
For
like
sure.
that would not have been healthy for me
Yeah.
at all. It's not healthy for me now.
No, I mean it's still tough. But so we it was in May of 18 whenever we got Drake.
McDonald's.
McDonald's.
I got a
in
double quarter
spring,
pounder and a medium fry. I drove y'all.
and a Drake.
Yeah, and a drink. You got a Happy Meal with a drink inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So and then so Drake was about 3 months old. 3 months old. And then about 3 months after that, we got the phone call for Ryder Lee
In the airport.
in the airport on our way to an adult Disney trip. And that was just a crazy ordeal. And I believe the
All the magic.
Hudsons were
Yeah.
already there, I believe.
We were already at Animal Kingdom
Yeah, y'all were already there
at the
and,
lodge.
We called y'all.
It was us three that were already there.
Yeah,
And
y'all. I was with the girls.
because
Y'all three were already there.
You called Eric, and
Yeah,
Eric.
we called y'all,
And-
and Eric, in his infamous wisdom, said, "Well, did God call you to stop?" And so we said yes, and got on the plane and went to Disney. Come back to a 3-week-old little boy waiting on us. So that's how we have 2 of them that are 6 months apart, which blows everybody's mind whenever they ask how old the boys are. And I tell them, well, one's 5 and one's 4.5.
They're like, what?
Yeah. So, and then after that, a little bit later, we had a couple little short-term foster care type deals that were known that they were going to be short-term.
I forgot about that because there was
Baby
one
Q.
that had
Baby Q, yeah.
eczema.
Had-
So
it's so bad, man. We had to
man.
lotion him up and all that, and
yeah,
like just completely lather him up and then put him in clothes to sleep in so it would hold the moisture in.
Yeah.
It was tough.
Hope he's doing okay.
Yeah. And then Jessica actually said, I think she said she's seen a picture of him not too long ago.
Oh,
He
good.
looked good. But anyway, and then we got the phone call for baby Jet, who was also premature, not quite as young as or early as Ryan. Ryan,
was
you
like
said was 23,
when he like 26 or 27?
25.
25.
Yeah. So Ryan was 23. Jet was born at 25 weeks. Which is crazy how much just those couple of weeks can make a difference. Because all the stuff that, they were telling the Youngs about, the issues that she was going to have and things like that, seemed like none of that was even mentioned to us about him. Which he's had
Issues.
allergies issues, lung issues, things like that. But as you guys know, he's good to go. He is rip roaring, and he will walk by you and punch you right in the leg just because. But so that was a crazy just a crazy ordeal, kind of like I said, a similar experience. We had to spend, a few months up at the hospital every single night, and
Yeah.
it's very draining and emotional, and it's just,
Well, and y'all's was
tough.
even different because y'all were able to stay at the hospital. We were not allowed. We had to leave. We were allowed 4-hour segments 3 times a day, which when it's the opposite of town, you have to go home. So
Yeah.
it was just, and Michelle was
and-
adamant she had to be there.
Yeah.
Which I get it. Like,
Well, let me
And
ask
so
y'all
for
about
Jet-
Go ahead.
sorry, but for Jet, kind of the ordeal was during COVID.
that's why. Yeah.
And so only one person could be up there at a time.
And it really could only be you or Jess, right?
and it could only be either me or her.
Yeah.
So like, even as much as anybody would want to jump in and help out, or
And at the same time, you have 2 at home.
exactly.
So it's
2
like,
at home that somebody has to be with, and then somebody up there with Jet.
Yeah.
It was tough, but
That's tough. Would y'all, knowing what you know now, would you change it?
No.
no, wouldn't change
Yeah.
a minute of it.
No, I would, because, and we'll get into this more next week. She doesn't know any different. She's happy.
I'm just talking about the whole adoption
no,
process
no.
in general.
No, I wouldn't change it. Only thing I would say is I wish someone, for all of us, like I tell people now when they're like, I want to adopt, I'm like, you better know you want it. Like, because it's not, everybody has this. I don't know about, because yours was even different than all of ours. You were getting phone calls before you were even like, we got to go do these classes. So yours was a different than most of us. Like, not that y'all didn't have a heart for it, but like she's reaching out to you, you're not reaching out to her.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, I just think I wish I'd have been more educated across the board. I had a heart to love a child. I wish there's things I would do different. I would not do anything different to get my daughter. I would go through all of it again.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. I mean, I think that when I thought about the process or the adoption, I knew that it's something that we wanted to do. I don't think I took into consideration the possibility that my child was going to be different than the other 30 biological boys that we brought up. I truly thought I was going to be bringing home a blonde-headed, blue-eyed little girl that I was finally going to have my daughter, that was going to grow up, love her daddy, and one day I was going to
Yeah.
walk her down the aisle
Mm-hmm.
and
Get some water.
let her take her off to college one day, give her the life that she always that she deserved, and
But you've done that. Not those
yeah,
things.
not those things. But then again, but that was my
Absolutely.
that was my dreams. that was my plans, I should say. But that's what I thought of when I thought about adoption. I never thought that there's a possibility that I would have, a child that was different than my other children. But at the same time, in a weird way, it's beautiful. And it's a wonderful thing. And I thank God that he brought it, because now I cannot even imagine her not being in my life.
Wouldn't you agree if you wouldn't have been obedient, she probably wouldn't be alive.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I tell people this all the time, is that I think that I truly believe that God put Sophia in our life because he knew that we were going to be obedient and we were going to take care of her the way that he wanted us to do. And we were going to love her the way that he wanted us to love her, no matter what circumstances came across. And again, he is one who continues to provide for her, and he continues to take care of her, and he just uses us as the vessels to do that.
Absolutely. So I also want to add in, so X, get the mic. Yours is a little different. I would like you to speak at one, as the friend to all of us, but two, you're the director at Youth Reach, which is different. There's boys there that we both work there, that look at you, me, as their stand-in father, sometimes the only father they have, and for practical purposes, most of them, it's a time, like it's a click in time to they're not yours anymore. Like, you're not physically signing the papers,
right?
But most of them don't know what it's like to have a father in their life.
Yeah. So yeah, we are not. Lauren and I are not physically signing papers, but that does not mean that we haven't adopted. Because the reality is that for me, every year on Father's Day, I'm getting text messages talking about Happy Father's Day from guys who were in the program and now are not in the program. So even though we haven't participated in what people usually see as adoption, we still partake in it by what we do in raising boys, but also coming alongside you guys and just being there in the best way that we can, and serving you guys in whatever capacity that y'all need. So it looks different, and though we don't have the same struggles or same challenges that you guys have, we have still partook in adoption, whether it be Youth Reach or just helping y'all in whatever capacity that we can.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think that there's two things that I would somewhat agree with, disagree with you. I think you do have a lot of the same struggles, like and just differently, like the fear of where these are our kids, like where are you going to go? These the boys can leave you whenever they want, and that's hard.
Yeah.
Or even when they graduate, like you're praying that whether it was a year and a half, that in that time where you've invested in them, that it doesn't, because like we've had funerals for boys.
Yeah.
So like you've invested in some of these boys. One's living with you now. So like some of them are family to you, and there's others where you've invested like a father, and they walk away, and it hurts.
Yeah.
Like I think it's definitely different, but I would say it's no different than fostering a kid and then you being told you're not getting to keep it.
Right.
And so that part, and I would say for you and Lauren, like I think it's one thing to answer the call to adopt. I think it's another thing to answer the call to love the orphan and help the people that are adopting. I think we need more of those.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm gonna say the fact that you have one living with you right now is a testimony to how well you and your wife love on these young men that come into your lives, and that is so much more than signing a documentation in front of a court. You're loving these young men who are coming in, and really the difference is, the situation your boys are coming in. Most of them are coming in from a failed situation. Mm-hmm. Most of them are coming in with a ton of baggage, and we're not talking about the suitcases that are on their backs, and some of them probably with none because they have no worldly possessions. They're coming in completely broken, and they're saying, "Hey, here you go, fix them, or they're going to go another direction. You either fix them, or we're gonna put them away." and both of you love on these young men, and you teach them through love that there's another way, love and discipline, and you teach them there's another way. So yeah, it's definitely another form of it's another form of adoption without the paperwork saying that they're yours.
Yeah. And most people, I mean, they just look at them as
Throwaways.
ailments. They look at them as, we don't have the resources, which, yes, but a lot of times it's just like, well, they're not fixable, so do what you will with them, and they feel the weight of that. So whenever they do have men who try to love them, they don't even know how to receive that.
Yeah.
So it's like it is tough, but we partake in it because, for one, we're called. There's a burden and a burning inside of us to do so. But another reason is, if we don't, who will?
Go ahead, Del.
I was going to say, I feel like you have to deal with a baggage that most don't, from the standpoint of, I would say, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I would say at least right now, 80% of the boys that come in have been adopted.
Yes.
So they've already felt abandonment once, and while they're in the program, I'd say of the 80%, 60% they're adopted parents. Like when we have the phone call, like, hey, they've been here close almost a year, let's start talking about exit strategies. They call and say, basically, they don't say it this way, but lack of better, like they say, we've enjoyed not having them, they can't come home.
Yeah.
So now they've been abandoned twice. Right. So that's different.
For sure.
Yeah.
So here's our question. There was two separate questions, but I think I'm going to tie them together. The question was, how do you feel the country is doing with adoption? How do you feel the church is doing with adoption? I want to tie the questions together and ask this question. Do we think the country or the church is doing better with adoption?
I actually think that both of them suck at it. I think that we, as a country, are failing our young people. And I'm embarrassed to say that our church is doing about the same, with the exception of the Armentars, because they're picking up the slack for everybody.
Yeah. Everybody wants the Armentars to join their church because they're graded by the curve.
We need more Armentars out there, because, but I'm gonna really try to be non-emotional about this, because it is, as a church, I believe we're found, because I believe, and I know we talked about this a little bit last night, but I believe that we're focused so much on one aspect of this, and I know that we talked about abortion, which I am definitely, I love, I'm definitely pro-life person, just personally, but here's my problem is that I believe that we as a church focus so much on the pro-life part of it, but we don't talk about the adoption part of it. We want to have these kids, we want these kids to live, and we want these moms who, for whatever reason, whatever their personal reasons are, we want these moms to have these kids, only to put them into a broken system where nobody's going to love them, nobody's going to look after them, nobody's going to protect them. And sometimes these moms are saying, I don't want my child going to that, because a lot of these moms have been through that system. A lot of these moms have been through foster systems where they have been abused, they've been physically assaulted, they've been belittled, and these moms don't want these kids to go through that.
Oh, that's
and
real.
There's absolutely no place for these kids to go in a lot of occasions. But yet we as Christians, and I'm going to use that term very lightly, because for obvious reasons, are failing our kids, and we're failing to do what God has called us to do, and that is to step up and protect these children and to love these children, whether that means adoption or just helping out, like you said, somebody who has adopted a child. I think that we're failing there. So we're only getting one part of the scripture right. So many of these churches are standing up now saying we are, absolutely no to abortion. But when it comes to the adoption part,
it's been 20 years since someone's adopted anybody in your church.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that part of the message. And I recently talked to a pastor that delivered that message, and he was up there on his pulpit, the whole fire, brimstone, anti-abortion stuff. And I said, where's the part about adoption? Where's the Where's the second half of that story? Because
Right.
there's not just one part of the story. We need to discuss the part where this child who is now going to be brought into this life, you got your wish. This child is now being brought into this world. Where's the part where you love this child now? Where's the part where you step in because this mom can't do it for whatever reason, has no family? They have no other alternative. Where are you at now? Because this mom needs you. This child needs you. But instead, it's going to go into a broken system.
And how sad is it that you have moms who would rather end their child's life than to put them in the system because they know how broken the system is?
Oh, well, that's
And
what
y'all
I'm
would know better than me because you see this. You see, you
Yes.
have boys that come
Yeah.
into that, and you see these broken boys who've been through that exact same system. And
Who have been abused. And
how many of these boys wish that they had never been born?
yeah.
Oh, we hear it all the time. Like, and this is the thing. Like, I'm like you. I am pro-life. However, we get on this. First of all, I think the reason we're pro-life in church instead of pro-adoption is because pro-life is a voiceless need. Like, there's no kid going, save me. We're talking about a kid that hasn't been born yet, so it's easy to point out this. And we've done this for years. In the 80s, it was drugs. We got behind Reagan on we need to be say no to drugs, which I'm anti-drugs, but we have a bigger issue than drugs. In the 90s, at least in the South, it was casinos. Casinos are going to ruin the country. We got to say no to gambling. It's going to ruin the family. And now it's abortion. We need that big sin that as a Christians we can go, I'm against this, so I'm a good Christian, but no one goes, what about these kids? And like you said, it's such an important picture. What about that mom that was in the system and got sexually molested and treated horribly? I don't blame her for not wanting to have that child born. Like, you can go, oh, you're a pastor and you're saying it's okay for abortion. I'm not saying it's okay for abortion.
Right.
I'm saying I get it. Like if you told me all the people that are men in my life are going to beat me, then I'm no longer going to want to be around men. So if you told me if I go into the system, my kid's going to have the same problems that I have, I don't want my kid to have that.
How would you like it to have a situation where a young girl, when her only options by her own choice were to keep this child because she could raise it the way she wanted to, or if she realized she couldn't, she says, you know what, I'm going to have this child because I know that this child is going to go into a loving Christian home. This child is going to grow up to know Jesus. You probably would have a much lower rate of abortion when you give a mom a loving option for her child that is going to grow up and have a good quality, loving life.
Well, I believe if women found out, so like, let's say a woman comes in and she finds out she's pregnant, and you can read the room and realize that this is not what she wants. If you were able to look at her and say, hey, I'm not telling you what to do, but right now we have 35 families, good families waiting on kids, I think it would change the mindset immediately. Because no one wants to talk about is if every church in Texas adopted one child, we have nobody in the foster system in America. Like, we don't talk about that. Like, how easily that is to eradicate. But like, the sad truth is less than 4% of the churches in America have adopted a child in the last 5 years. Like,
yeah. Well, and go back to now the national side of it,
right?
Because you know that before we adopted Sophia, we had the opportunity, or at least Meredith and I were feeling that we were going to look into, and I'm not going to say the young ladies' names, but there was a young lady that was in our church that was being fostered, and Meredith and I both felt like, because she also had a little brother that was in the system. I don't remember if you remember him, but he was like in our kindergarten or pre-K, so it was a brother sister tandem.
I remember him though.
And so we started going through the process to potentially make this happen. In fact, Meredith was actually teaching the little boy on Sunday morning. Okay. She had him, so she knew. And so when I brought up the little girl's name, she was like, "Oh my goodness, those two together, we could do this." And then they get lost in the system.
Yeah,
and we can't find them anymore. But that happened to me twice. And even once when I was a police officer, and a little girl that I had taken out of a really bad situation that I was, I was working with a foster care system, and I even went to a court hearing, and next thing you know, she's vanished, she's gone, and nobody can tell me anything. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. We have a family here that is ready to take on this child, right? With all of their brokenness, with all the baggage they carry. we were ready to take them, and they were like, "Sorry, we can't help you."
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of loopholes. There's a lot of things that our society, that our court systems, that our government has put in place that's making it very, very difficult for families to adopt children.
Yeah, no, I mean it's the sad part is it has turned into a money making business more than saving kids' lives.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And that's the crazy thing is that, which we've already kind of touched on it, but even if you don't feel called to adopt, we're all called to love the orphan.
Absolutely.
And there's so many different ways that looks, you know? I mean, there's no way that we could have ever adopted 3 boys without the help of the other 3 families plus other people around us. You know, and so I think that speaks just mountains for X and his family as far as loving on us and loving on our boys without obligation.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and
Well,
so
and I think your story is even different from ours from the standpoint of at least 2, maybe all 3. It was very clear, and I'm not saying this about the biological mothers. My heart breaks for those women, but
Yeah.
they were unfit to be mothers.
Yeah.
Like they admitted we're not capable of doing this, and it still almost looked like y'all weren't going to get the boys.
Yep.
And to me, it's crazy to me. One, we can go down this road for the people that are in charge of this stuff aren't educated enough to be making some of these decisions on people's psyche
100%.
and stuff like that, which is ridiculous. And I mean, we used to work with one, and so it's just a sad state. Here's our next question, so we can keep going. Do you feel as though adoption is tailored more towards a specific people group, ethnic group, biological parents, adoptive parents, other? I definitely think, for me, I definitely think we have painted this picture of there is a child that's more important to be adopted than another, and here's what I mean by that. Or there's easily a child that people want to adopt more than other, because if you go through the system, it actually costs money to adopt white children, at least in the state of Texas right now. It costs a little bit of money, less money, to adopt Hispanic children. If you want to adopt black children, they're free.
I did not know that. That's wow.
Yeah, and which tells me, it just, I don't know what all it tells me. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Well, it definitely doesn't look right from the surface. I mean, doesn't that say something? I mean, it's like,
yeah. It immediately to me it.
I guess I need time to process that, because I did not know that, and that's to me, I'm like, to me on the surface, that is just.
Well, and when I realized it was, I think y'all were walking through the process, and I thought at the time, if you went just through CPS, I thought that all children were like $2,000. I make me get the number like roughly $2,000, and then you were like, no, because at the time, I think Drake or Jed or one of them were possibly going to be that, and you're like, it's half that, and I'm like, no, I just saw this, and so like me and Michelle started researching, and it clearly stated on there.
So where the difference was between Drake and Ryder.
That's what it was.
Yeah, because
Drake is clearly Hispanic.
Drake is he's Hispanic, and
we believe that Ryder is, but he doesn't look
Ryder
Hispanic.
doesn't look Hispanic, nor does he have his bio dad was never found, so there was never any evidence of I guess DNA or whatever.
It's crazy we were even having this conversation.
Yeah,
it's bizarre that we were listen to you explain this. Because
Right.
to me, it's just like this crazy supply and demand thing that we've created.
Exactly. Well, that just goes back to what Dale said about it being a business.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me to think that we've created this business of a supply and demand for a child of God,
Yep.
and that we I mean, because you can tell me right now, this is your child, and I'm gonna take whoever is God puts in front of me to love on. But it's just bizarre to me that our society has put a price tag
A price
on-
tag
on
and
children.
the type and amount of benefits that are different.
Yeah, the benefits change, the amount changes that you get per month. Another part that bothers me is it breaks my heart that we do nothing for biological parents to help change the mindset.
Yes.
Like there are mothers out there that I genuinely think want help, and we just cast them to the side. And here's the problem: when we do that, we're just repeating the process.
For sure.
And
And it's so sad because I can vividly remember, and not to give, because it's not our story, but it kind of is. Our last day in court for Drake, I vividly remember sitting outside with his bio mom, and she was about to sign over rights. Because she hadn't been doing well, and she hadn't been, accomplishing the things that the goals that they had set in front of her and stuff. And she just broke down, and she just said, just please let him know that I love him, and that I'm sick, and that I want to get better, but I just can't.
Yeah.
And just, so yes, we are at that moment, we're excited because it's basically finalized that, he's going to be ours.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we just constantly prayed so hard that somebody's able to help her and to do something for her.
But this goes back to what you said. We're so anti-abortion. What church has a program to help women?
Where's that? What you find a church in the United States that has a ministry?
Yeah,
to help
and
women.
there might be, but I haven't heard of it.
Never heard of it. Actually, you actually saying that is the first time you've heard of
Just leave the thought like that we have
The thought of it.
to have a ministry for women, a restoration type ministry to help women that have had to walk through this process. We have all felt defeat in our life. Imagine the defeat of having to give up a child, because here's the thing, and you've said this before to me. I respect a mother that realizes she can't do it.
Yeah.
I do. That's got to be the hardest decision you'll ever make, to realize that he's better off or she's better off with someone else.
And I'll be honest with you. And if it comes down, if there's a mom out there listening that has the choice to either abort a child or to have the child and give the child up for adoption, I truly pray that she chooses to have that child, and I pray that that God walks with her, and that God has His hand on that child, and that the right family comes along to give that child the best life. Because you never know unless
Absolutely.
that child has the chance to live, which is what I always choose, is that the choice of life. But at the same time, we as Christians have to step up. We have to put ourselves to the side and recognize. But I think it goes back to it's at the end of the day, it's selfishness. It is complete selfishness. Why we don't have more good Christian families stepping up,
Right.
Because you know what, it's a life changer. The life that you thought you were going to have is going to completely change.
100%.
But my God, it's a great life.
Yeah, I wouldn't
change it for anything.
I wouldn't
For
change
sure.
it. And I would even say, in what you're just to piggyback on what you're saying, God loves that child more than any of us ever can.
Yeah.
And that doesn't guarantee that he's going to have a great life, but God still loves that child. But I'd also add, if you've gone down the road of abortion, know that Jesus still loves you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the judgment, the sad truth of the judgment that this church has poured on you is not true, and it's not fair, and you deserve to be loved. If you live in this area, Image Church would welcome you.
Yeah.
100%.
And I'm so glad you said that, because the enemy, which is real, wants you to walk away from the church. They want you to feel defeated by the church because of your decisions that you've made. They want you to feel like you didn't have the support of the church, because at the end of the day, only the enemy wins on that one.
Right.
And but that is not the truth. That is a complete lie. And if there is a church that makes you feel that way, there are other churches around here who will not make you feel that way.
Absolutely.
That will if they're teaching the true gospel, they're going to love you no matter what, because what Jesus died for, he died for all of our sins. And no matter what sin you have against you, whether it be an abortion, no matter what it is, you've already been forgiven of those sins.
Absolutely.
And that is the truth. And so yeah, I mean, my goodness, it's tough. It's got to be tough for those moms, and I hate that we're not doing a better job as a church of loving on them and helping them walk through this.
So another question that was posed is, do you think? And I don't know. I mean, maybe Range will be I can speak into it from a youth reach perspective, not with Ryan, but maybe Range. Maybe his boys are still too young to answer this question. But the question is, do you think it's more harmful or helpful, or neither, adopting outside of one's race? So my initial statement to this, we were very intentional. We wanted a multicultural home. Not saying that if it was a white child that we were offered, that we'd have been like, no, we can't do that. But because Ryan has special needs, we don't really, a lot of that doesn't, like, our kids are very diligent about learning a lot about Black culture because they do love their sister. But because of Ryan's special needs, I don't think that's a thing in our home per se. But I can speak for Youth Reach. We have multiple boys that have been adopted by white families that are not white, and they've made the statement, I just wonder if my life would be different if I'd been adopted by families the same color. However, I personally think for them, they have been adopted by unhealthy families.
Yeah.
And they're looking for any reason to find out why they weren't loved better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I am a believer in this. If you learn, like Rain said a minute ago, if you know how to love the orphan, I'm not saying there's not going to be difficulty. There is. If you were in a family that's all of one race and you're the one person, there's going to be questions. There's going to be times, but I think love can overwin that. Like, I think love can change that 100%.
And I agree. I think that, and of course, every case is different. But I think, let's say, if you have even if you have a white child that's adopted by a white family and things don't go well, they're going to wonder.
Absolutely.
What if I would have been adopted by? What if my family would have been? If I was stuck around with my family, there's always going to be questions when there's that. When there's that dynamic in that child's life. But I'll be honest, it's got to be. I'll be honest, as your friend, yesterday when we were having dinner, when we were, and I know that y'all have dealt with this because Ryan is Black. I found myself getting defensive. I'm watching because y'all are walking out, y'all are walking in front of me, y'all are walking with Ryan, and I saw this table staring, and part of me wanted to say, I was waiting, just say something, because I've seen the looks.
Yep.
And y'all have done an amazing job at learning. You know what? It is what it is. People are going to look. People are going to stare. But as a friend, and I understand. You know what? You're not going to fix it. You're not going to fix ignorance,
right?
By confrontation.
And it took us a while to get there. So
yeah.
You're like, because Range is.
But I've seen the mature. I've seen y'all mature, and you know what? You just walk by, and it is because again, there's another opportunity. The enemy really wants to use us as a way to. For sure, to get you riled up, and to show an ungodly way about it. But
in for me, it's been I'm not going to change your mind if I go off on you right now.
Right
now, there are moments, and some of it I also tell people you need to breathe and relax a little. So, like for example, we've gone out to dinner before. Xavier's sitting at the table, and the waiter comes over to Xavier and goes, "And what would your daughter like to eat?" I don't find offense in that. I think he's making the common sense. She's Black. You're Black. Right. More than likely, that's your daughter. And he always goes, go ask her daddy. And we all laugh at it. And some people are like, are you offended? I'm like, why would I be offended? Like, it's not.
Yeah, that's not something to be offended
He'd be a good dad.
Yeah, I've told him he can have her as many days a week as he wants. But I do agree.
And he can pay for all her meals.
And I will say there are some times that we're in public. I think the ones that still get us is when it's people that know us and say things where we're like, "Why would you say that?" And then they go, "Well, it's different because that's your daughter." And I'm like, "Is it different?
Yeah.
Like what does that mean?" Like, and so like those are still give me like, but yeah, there's times that we go like I saw him yesterday and I was just kind of like, "Just keep walking." Like,
Yeah.
and that's tough to get to that point.
it is. There's days. Trust me. There's days where I'm not there, and there's other days that I do better for sure.
For sure.
What about you? I mean, yours are still young.
They're still young, and but we have had a couple of little black boys stay with us for extended periods of time as far as foster type stuff, because our 3 boys are all 3 Hispanic, and so the appearance is not as
Because you and Jess are
drastic.
both dark hair, people
Dark hair.
can still make the assumption, well, that is their kid.
But here's what, let me tell you what I love about both of you and Jessica, is that especially early on and still, I know Jessica has asked me, "Hey, you're Hispanic. Do you mind if I ask you?" And I love it because she'll actually reach out, send me a text or whatever. She'll say, "Can I ask you a question about, my heritage and certain things like that?"
Yeah.
And I think that is great because she's asking from a standpoint that I love my kids.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I'm doing right by them. And I want to make sure that I kind of understand,
Exactly.
what could be beneficial for them. So I love the fact that she's looking out for that. I think the other thing is that you got to be careful not to be overly. I think you could be overly worried about that kind of
Absolutely.
stuff. Because
For
at the end of the day, they're the child's parents now. You are their parents, and you have to ultimately decide what's best for them, no matter what any of that is.
Yeah.
Whatever, you got to figure out what it is best for your family. So
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, and that's something that both of us have done. Heck, just the other day, I was at talking to our tire guy in Dayton, and it was, I don't know, some holiday was coming up, and
Cinco de Mayo.
no, this was further back than that. And I asked him, I was like, because he's Hispanic, and so I just struck up a random conversation with our tire guy, and it was so cool because you could tell that he enjoyed telling me
Right.
about
His culture.
his culture
Yeah.
that would benefit my boys. And
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
It's really cool, but just to be able to ask people questions and things like that. And like you said, I think to know they're still young for us to know kind of.
Oh, I think for y'all, there's more coming.
Absolutely.
Because I think
Especially with them being
no,
involved.
well, just I think with just as they
breaks a little bit.
as they get older, I think that people are going to be able to see, because clearly, Jet and Drake look more alike
Much
than Ryder.
more like.
And so
right.
I think the questions are coming. The looks are kind of
No,
probably
the
come.
looks are coming. The questions are coming for sure.
And like you said, it's easy. Like I have to tell myself, I can't fight that fight today.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
And me personally, I would rather somebody ask the question than to just look at me with a blank stare and just go on about their day with ignorance.
yeah,
Like, because when people ask, are the boys or Drake and Ryder twins? No, they're not. And I'll say, no, they're not. They're 6 months apart. To get them to thinking, to go ahead and ask the next question.
it's
How
so
does
funny
that
when
work?
when you throw that out, the people are like,
Yeah. And so then I'm able to tell them, they're adopted, this, that, and the
Yeah.
other. And so
yeah. So last question, basically closing question, like what do you feel from a biblical standpoint? We look at how do we look at adoption? Because we've all agreed that we don't feel like the church is doing it well. Like what do we feel like needs to change?
Actually, I'll be honest. I don't know that it's a very rarely is a topic spoken from the pulpit. It's definitely not like an eye-catching or an ear-catching topic. You know, I think sometimes when you hear about it, people tend to get shut off by it. But there's clearly a biblical link between what the Father has done for us and what He's asked us to do.
Absolutely.
I think that it's, and I think too many times we forget about that. I think that people forget that we as well, we're also adopted, you know, and, yeah, I just think that too many people forget that. And I don't know.
Yeah, no, I would add, in range to this earlier, Jesus called us to love the orphan, everyone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things we can debate the church should do. There's very few things that Jesus made very clear need to be done. And one of them is loving the orphan. And that looks different for every family.
Yeah.
And I do agree with you. The whole month geared towards adoption that very few churches talk about at all. The second part of that is we are really quick. If there is a need in the church, we will stand up there and demand people to help. We don't do that for people. Like if we find out a family in our church is going through adoption, we don't go, so who's going to cook dinner for them? Who's good? Like whether it's financial, physical, like we do not take charge of adoption and loving the orphan like it's something that was passionate on Jesus' heart. We just don't. And I think that that's a sad mindset that we have towards it. That we look at it as like, it's really cool that God called you to, no, He called all of us to love the orphan. He might not have called us all to adopt, but He called us all to love the orphan. And we segregate the two going, that's not my call, so now I can't be a part of it. Which, a side note, I feel like we do that with a lot of things in ministry.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds to me like most Christians, the only thing we're called to do is listen to worship on Sunday morning and go to the service, and that's about it.
You know, as long as I have my radio set at KSBJ and I'm doing nice things,
Yeah.
I am good with the Father. You know, go ahead.
If you want to step outside and be on the parking team or the greeting
Yeah,
team,
yeah.
you are a mature Christian. after that.
Absolutely.
Because I made sure somebody didn't park in Miss Janice's spot because she got that walker. She needs help up here, so I'm going to heaven.
Yeah.
We just don't want to be inconvenienced as Christians.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, loving the orphan to the extreme is inconvenient.
Mm-hmm.
Besides, I didn't make that problem. Why is it my problem?
Yeah.
You know, I'm taking care of my family. I've raised my kids. I've raised them to be good people. You know, that's all I need to do. That's I feel like that's our mindset is that as long as I take care of what's under my roof, we're good. That somebody else will take care of that problem because God's called somebody else to do it. That's so many times it almost, and I'll be honest with you because I know that from a mission standpoint. It's like, you know, there was a time in my life I thought, you know, I don't really feel God calling me there. And it took my wife reminding me, guess what?
He called us all.
Let me tell you a scripture that you left out.
Yeah.
You know, because God has called all of us.
Yeah.
But I think we're so quick to say, you know what? I don't really feel like God's called me to adopt. Like, you know what? God's calling you to do all kinds of things. My bet is you're not listening.
Yeah.
Because I've been there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
For sure. And I definitely agree with what both of you had said, and just to kind of, I would probably just combine both of those and say the tunnel vision that the tunnel vision that is had.
I think it's fair to say
majority of, you know, the only way to help or love the orphan is to adopt. And that's just not true.
Right.
There's multiple ways, multiple facets, the number of things that can be done, it's so numerous. I mean, there's short-term foster care, there's respite, there's babysitting one night. I mean, if you know somebody that has,
it's even just calling organizations going, is there any kids that just needs clothes?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, just there's so many different ways that.
Or if your church has nothing, why don't you take it by the reins and go up to your pastor and say, you know what? I want to do something.
Yeah.
And you know, don't say, are we doing this? Are we doing this at church? Go to your pastors with an idea and let's say, you know what? I feel God calling me to do this. I don't know a lot about it, but I'll study about it and I'll learn up on it, and I will take care by the reins by myself.
For sure. 100%.
Don't rely on somebody else. Do it yourself.
Exactly.
Amen. Well, I think we covered it. I would say if you have any questions on this, feel free to reach out. Yes, Eric's with us a couple more weeks, but we can definitely get you in contact.
I'm exhausted. This one, like mentally wore me. I feel like I feel like I was with Sophia all day.
When they took the bone out to you about the money thing, you weren't ready for it. I could tell that did not sit well.
That was a good conversation. I enjoyed it. That was good. But I'm mentally exhausted.
And
now.
I can say for all three of our families, and I can say this for the Brights too, whether it's with our kids or the Youth Reach kids, it's our family is better because of it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I can tell you that my kids and Eric's, I'm not including because all of Range's kids are adopted. Our biological children had to sacrifice for a calling that wasn't on their life, on mine and his.
Yeah.
And
my boys learned how to love a young lady the proper way.
Right. And so to me, to watch, it blesses my heart when my children and his children go, the first question they ask when friends come over, do you love my sister?
Yeah.
If you don't, we can't rock with you.
Yeah. She's a part of the package.
Yep. So thank you for being here with us today. This has been Culture on Tap. We will be back next week with Eric talking about special needs. So another fun.
Are we talking about our friends this time?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So thank you for being with us, and we will catch you guys next week. Culture on Tap is sponsored by Houston Radio Platinum, playing the best classic hits. You can download Houston Radio Platinum app in the App Store, or just ask Alexa to play Houston Radio Platinum.